Hey sports fans, thanks for tuning in for our final night of Babe Ruth Birthday Bash programming.
Tonight, we travel to Easton, Pennsylvania for a sit-down visit with Orioles hurler Jack Fisher, part of manager Paul Richards' Kitty Corps in the early 60s, who laid the foundation for the golden era of Baltimore Orioles baseball.
Before we get started, here's a shout out to our dedicated museum teammates who helped put this virtual birthday bash together. And be sure to check out our silent auction, which closes out this Sunday, February 27th at 9 p.m.
Now, here's Mike's visit with Jack Fisher.
So good evening, everybody. I'm here with old Oriole Jack Fisher, and my name is Mike Gibbons from the Babe Ruth Museum. Thank you all for joining in on our virtual program this evening, and we're going to be talking with Jack primarily about a couple of pitches that he threw that turned out to be among the most historic pitches in Major League Baseball history. So Jack, welcome to our show this evening. Thank you for allowing us into your home today, and this has been a real honor for me.
Thanks for coming, Mike.
Well, no problem. So listen, what I'd like to do is maybe start off with how you got into baseball. You are a Maryland native, grew up in Frostburg, 1939, and and off you went. So when did you start to understand that you wanted to be a baseball player?
Well, in Frostburg, when I turned 12 years old, they had organized Little League for the first year, and I was in on that. And all I can remember about that, I wanted to be a third baseman, but I threw the ball hard enough, so they moved me over to pitcher after a while. And I can remember that our all-star team went down and beat Cumberland, which was a big town back then, you know. And then we went on to Frederick and got beat in the Little League playoffs. But after 12 years old, my dad was a serviceman, and he was assigned down to Camp Gordon, Georgia, right outside of Augusta. So we moved down there to be with him, so I was in junior high and high school down there. So
yeah, I hear a little bit of twang in you.
You know, I guess it never leaves.
Right, yeah, that's pretty cool. So where? What was the high school? What was the name, and were you pitching down there?
It was Richmond Academy, and I happened to be so fortunate to go there when I did, because to give you an example, over a 7-year period, ending up with, when I was a senior, it was my high school coach's the 7th year. And his record at that time was 154 wins and 6 losses. and I had 20 of those wins, and I had one of the losses. So, but yeah, that's and we also, just to throw a little sidebar in, I played basketball and football there too. We come in second in the state in basketball, and we won it in football.
Jeez.
So we had quite a collection of athletes there at that school.
So in baseball, were you always exclusively a pitcher, or did you get to play a little third base?
No, actually, after I went down to Augusta, I primarily just pitched. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Any off speed or just slinging it?
Oh, I could throw curveballs back then, and one of the guys that had been a college pitcher taught me how to throw a changeup, and I didn't use that very much. It was primarily a fastball.
Okay, well that's good. So somebody scouted you. I mean, how did they find you? How'd you get into the program?
Well, obviously we were in the playoffs for the state championship every year, and that I was on the team. I actually got to pitch 2 games as a freshman, and happened to win those. But there would be a lot of big league scouts there, and after I graduated from high school, I was going to go on a 3-team tour to throw the ball in front of the major leaguers. I was going to start out in Baltimore, From there, I was going to go to Pittsburgh, and from the Pittsburgh, I was going to go to St. Louis with the Cardinals.
Okay.
And so my mom and my dad had been, once again, restationed over in Germany. And so my mom and I went up to Baltimore, and she was going to go on the tour with me, you know. And I can just remember with Paul Richards. Actually, two other guys were there working out at the same time, Milt Pappas and Jerry Walker. So the three of us were there. And I had made up my mind that, in fact, my high school coach pretty much guided me in the direction. If I had to, number one, get a big league contract, major league contract. And number two, I had to get a bonus of at least $16,000 because that was 4 years of college at the University of Georgia. $4,000 a year would have got me through college at Georgia. So, and when after throwing for Richards, he called me in the office and, what is it that you want? And I told him, I said, major league contract and $16,000. He says, you got it.
Jeez.
What? And so I said, well, I better talk to my mom about this. So went back. We were staying at the Lord Baltimore, and so we had a conversation that night. And she knew I wanted to play baseball, and he matched what I wanted. I said, oh boy. So I'll go back there, and we go work out a little bit more. And he called me back in the office, and he said, "Tell you what, up to $20,000." And I was ready to go at 16.
Right.
I'd already said okay.
Wow.
With my mother. But so that's how I ended up signing with the Orioles
In Baltimore. And so your first game, or I'm sorry, you started the 1959 season. I looked it up. It was like April 14th. So that's the beginning of that year, and you're on the ball club.
Mm-hmm.
You appeared in 27 games that year, 7 as a starter. So did Richards give you, at the beginning of the year, did he say you're primarily going to be a relief pitcher, or how did that work?
Never had that conversation. It was just, when I call on you, I want you to go out there.
Right. Okay. The Wizard of Waxahachie, Paul Richards.
He was fun.
He was a unique guy, wasn't he?
He was. He was a real pitching guru back then. And Harry Burkeen was the pitching coach.
Right. And
they worked very, very well together. His favorite pitch was the slip pitch, which is a change-up.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody on the staff had to learn the slip pitch. And I ended up using it throughout my whole career.
So you did?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good. So we were talking before we went on the air about how that team, the 59 team, the 60, and then onwards, really proved the foundation for what became years and years of championship baseball in Baltimore. And you guys were called the Baby Birds. You had Pappas, you had Walker.
Kitty Corps.
And the Kitty Corps.
Yeah.
Jerry Walker.
The team was the Baby Birds, and the pitching staff
was the Kitty Corps.
Yeah.
Estrada.
All of us under 21 years of age.
Yeah. And it was amazing. But before we go to 1960, which was a real breakthrough year for the team and for you, but you had Brooks Robinson and Gus Triendos and guys like that playing with you. What was that like?
Jim Gentile.
Did you know that Brooks was going to be Brooks? Was he that special?
Well, I never saw anybody work harder than him.
Really?
I mean, he was just continually out there taking ground ball after ground ball after ground ball. He must have fielded more ground balls in practice than anybody had ever played.
Really?
He really worked at his trade. And he had great talent. Didn't have a great arm, but boy, he got rid of it so quickly.
He did. And you mentioned Gentile. You go into 1960 and
what a year.
And boy, he 46 homers, 141 RBIs. And the Orioles challenged the Yankees into September for first place. A big series in Baltimore at early in the month.
Right.
And what happened there?
Well, I think Pappas, I believe, pitched the first opening of the doubleheader, or the series. It was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday series. And I can remember my mom was vacationing back in Frostburg at the time, and so I've left a lot of tickets for people to come down and see. Pappas pitched on Friday night and beat him 6-0. I pitched on Saturday and beat him 3-0. And then I think it was Chuck Estrada pitched against him on Sunday, and we ended up beating him 6-2. So we swept him. And of course, my mother, it was whenever we went out to eat after the ball game, she said, "Everything's on me. I just saw my son beat the Yankees."
Well, I have to tell you, as a fan back then, this town, Baltimore, was so into the Orioles. The Baltimore Colts had been prominent, winning the championship in '58 and '59. They had Unitas and Moore and Marchetti and all these guys, and now the Orioles have arrived. And Baltimore, long known as a baseball town, and you set this town on fire with that series, which was terrific. But then you go to New York, and
then the big boys showed up. They were all good ball games, but they beat us. I mean, I think I gave up the most runs. I think I lost my game like 3-2 or 4-2. I believe it was 4-2, and I gave up the most runs on our staff in that. I think the last game, I think Whitey Ford beat Pappas 1-0. It was that kind of a series.
Right.
But what, they went on and won 14 in a row or something like that.
Yeah, I think that we, from a fan's perspective, certainly from a team's perspective, when we lost the last two games, it was a doubleheader.
Right.
If we had won those, we would have split with them, and everything would have been the same,
Right.
which we may have been in first place, but we didn't. And
Well, we went in there, I believe, tied.
Yeah.
Because after we swept them in Baltimore for the 3 games, I think we went to Kansas City and they went to Detroit for a 4-game series. And I think we split with Kansas City, and I think they beat Detroit 3 out of 4. So we actually went back into Yankee Stadium tied.
Okay. So they were all, even the last game, if you lose 3 in a row, everything was important.
Sure, right.
But the sweep hurt. Hurt a lot. But nevertheless, it gave all of us, the team, the fans, a chance to feel what that was like, the excitement of a pennant race for the first time. It was just a tremendous thing that you guys did, which, as we have mentioned, led on to a glorious future, with the Baltimore Orioles. So then you come to the first historic pitch, and it occurred at the end of the 1960 season. So the Orioles are out of it, and you're in Boston, the last game of the year, and you're on the mound, and it turns out to also be Ted Williams' last game of his career, and he comes to bat in the seventh inning. Take us through and tell us what happened at that at bat.
Well, as I tell the story, it was a cold, dreary day in Boston. It was not nice. My roommate at the time was Steve Barber, and Steve started the game. And in the first inning, all of a sudden I'm up and I'm throwing, and I have to come in. I think they had scored 2 runs off of him, and had like the bases loaded and 1 out or something like that. And Richards took him out and brought me in, and I got out of the. And during the game, we ended up going ahead 3-2. And to show you how different the game is, Williams. I'll stay with Williams. Williams, the first time I faced him, he hit a long fly to deep right, but the wind was blowing in, and I thought he really hit it well, and I thought maybe that was gone. But Al Pilarczyk went back and caught the ball close to the track, and I thought, there's no way that anybody's going to hit one out of here at right field. So we go into into the seventh inning, and I believe I was ahead 4-2, and Williams was up, and I thought, well, Jackie Jensen's hitting right behind him, that short left field wall. There's no way you're going to walk the guy. You're going to, so Gus was calling, Shandis was my catcher, and he called for all kinds of breaking stuff, sliders and curves and change-ups and all that. And I kept shaking him off, no, just fastballs. Because I just wanted to challenge him. Even if he hit it good, I didn't think he could hit it out. And I can remember threw him a fastball, and he swung and missed it. And I think in his book he talked about that.
Okay.
He said, I looked out there and I saw that Fisher. He thought he could do, he said, I can't believe I missed that pitch. But anyhow, he thought all pitchers were stupid. And, but anyhow, he ended up on a 1-1 pitch, and he hit the ball into their bullpen in right field. And all that did was put them 4-3. And I can remember after he hit the home run, he went out to left field, and I believe Carroll Hardy took his place. They had him come off, supposedly to the standing ovation, and what a great career.
Yeah.
Because he had announced before the game, they were going to Yankee Stadium for the last 3 games, I believe, but he announced that he wasn't going to go to New York. He was going to retire in Boston. So I knew that was his last time at bat. And when he came in, everybody's standing there clapping. I think he might have tipped his cap when he went into the dugout. But then he just went and sat down there, and people wouldn't stop clapping. And I kept fidgeting on the mound, trying to find some, And finally I looked in the dugout, and he went, pitch. So I ended up pitching. So he would not come out and tip his hat for the second time.
Oh, my.
He stayed in the dugout.
Oh, it's interesting. In our archives, we have Ted Williams' last contract, signed by Ted. And actually, the way the Red Sox had provisioned it, he could have the contract extended beyond 1960. Obviously, he signed this before that season. So, but it's a fascinating document that we have, and so that's your first historic moment. But it's a big one, because this guy, many consider the greatest hitter, one of certainly of all time, and
I consider him the best hitter I ever faced.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about it.
Well,
he didn't hit me all that well, but you could just feel it when he was in the on-deck circle.
Right.
And you're out there pitching to the batter in front of him, but your eyes kept wandering over there, and there he was over there kneeling with his eyes glued on you, and you could feel that he was really into it.
Yeah. I mean, he had it all figured out, that's for
did.
sure. Last major leaguer to hit 400 in a season, for sure.
Yeah.
So the 1960 season ends. The Orioles make a nice run. They finish behind the Yankees. And we head into 1961. And as we mentioned before, this is the year where Gentile went off. But a lot of you had terrific seasons, in 1961, leading the team to win 95 games. But it wasn't enough. Again,
Right.
the Yankees went off and made a run at the end of the season to clinch the pennant. But this is the year that Maris and Mantle went after Babe Ruth's home run record, and ultimately it came down to Maris chasing the Babe. And we get to the 154th game of the season. Now, the seasons had been extended to 162 games a couple of years before, and now here we are at the 154 mark, where Ruth had set his record in 154 games. The Yankees are in Baltimore. Milt Pappas is on the mound, for this game. And Pappas told me, I don't know if you believe it necessarily, told an audience at our museum that he grooved a pitch for Maris.
I find that hard to believe.
So Maris hits one out of the park. Now he's at 59. He's got a few more plate appearances.
His last one, I think, was against Hoyt Wilhelm.
Right. And he hit a ball to the wall. The wind evidently held it up. And then they brought Luman Harris brought Wilhelm in, and he had a squibbler down the first baseline. Wilhelm picked it up and threw it to Gentile, and that was that. He did not achieve 60 in 154 games. So we go to Yankee Stadium a few days later, and you're on the mound, and now Maris is still chasing Ruth for 60. And tell us about that historic at bat.
Well, I think that also was right around the 7th inning. And I had shut him out up to that point. We were ahead 2-0. And believe I had 2 strikes on him. And at that time, I had a pretty good curveball. And Gus called for the curveball. And I wound up and threw the pitch. And when I got just about to here, I thought, take a little off. Rather than really throwing the hard curveball, it's just going to take something off of him. Because I believe I had 2 strikes on him. Well, all the pitch did was just roll up there. I mean, it was like on a platter. I'd have loved to have been at bat then. I think I could have hit that thing. And anyhow, he hit the home run off of me and made it 2-1. You know, the funny thing about both of those games the famous home runs, Williams and Maris, I ended up losing the game in the bottom of the 9th inning. Had I won the games, that would have been all perfect for me. But the fact that we ended up blowing the game in the bottom of the 9th inning in both games, that hurts.
So Maris, according to historians, and there have been films and stuff like that, he was under a lot of pressure, a lot of stress.
Oh, yeah.
Chasing after the Babe, and the public sentiment was not necessarily
wanted
for
Mantle. Yeah.
Well, and they wanted Mantle. Mantle was
Right.
the darling,
And he got hurt.
and he gets hurt. But could you tell from Roger's demeanor? Could you see
Not
the
really,
stress?
Not really.
He was okay.
Yeah.
I think that after that, he had great relief that he had finally caught him, even though the commissioner
Right.
of baseball said there will be an asterisk next to the 60 home run mark
Right.
because of the 154 game thing. But you were out there in that moment in history. And how did you feel about that? I mean, were you aware of the enormous...
Oh, I knew that that the home run was the 60th, but all I was trying to do is win the ball game.
Okay.
That absolutely was secondary to me, and I just wish I hadn't made a mistake on that pitch, and we ended up winning the game. But
Right.
It was totally a bad pitch on my part.
So that team, the Orioles team, Gentile, you had Marv Breeding, I think, at
Second base.
Ronnie Hansen
Short.
at short, who was American League MVP. You had Brooksy at third, Triendos behind the plate, and a pretty solid outfield.
Jackie Brandt.
Yeah.
In center.
Could you see it coming?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Especially in the pitching staff.
Yeah.
I mean, we all could throw pretty hard, and for some reason they decided to break us up.
Right. Yeah. How Skinny Brown was on that team.
Yes, he was.
He was the veteran. Was
Hector.
Was he a big help?
Well, he was a calming influence, and later on, I think my last year with Baltimore, Robin Roberts came over and pitched. So I really enjoyed being around Robin too. He was quite an inspiration.
Yeah, Hall of Famer. So, 1962, your last year in Baltimore. Did you stay the whole year? Or?
Yeah, I was there the whole year. I got traded in the off season for Mike McCormick, John Orsino, and Stu Miller.
Wow, that's a pretty good group.
Yeah, I went to the Giants in a trade that Tommy Davis and I think went.
Did you see it coming, that trade?
No, had no idea. No idea that was happening.
But now at this point, Richards is gone.
Right.
So do you think that
Billy Hitchcock.
Right, and Richards was the pitching guru. I mean,
Yes,
that was his
he
game.
was, yeah.
Do you think that the change at the top may have caused them to start shifting?
I have no idea
gears?
what caused it.
Okay, all right.
I'd like for us to have stayed together. It would have been interesting, if we could have stayed together for all our careers.
Yeah, it was an awesome squad. That's for sure. So there's another pitch that you threw. This one has a nice little side story to it. But so you get to the Mets, 1964, and the Mets had started a couple of years earlier with
62,
Casey Stengel as the manager, and now they're moving into their new home in Shea Stadium,
Right.
and you are designated.
Home opener.
Yeah, there you go. So you're warming up. There's a lot of people on the field, and it's kind of crazy.
Congestion. Yeah.
What happened that kind of changed
Well,
the game?
I threw a pitch or two, and while you're throwing the pitch, we used to warm up right out in front of the dugout on a flat. They had a rubber out there, and it was just all flat. And they had a home plate back by the 60 feet, 6 inches away, back by the backstop. And all the pitchers used to warm up right in front of the dugout. And I threw a pitch that almost hit a guy. He didn't realize he was walking in front of me, between me and the catcher. And I believe I just missed his head. And so I was just starting to warm up. And finally I went over to Casey, was holding court in the dugout, and I interrupted him and I said, "Casey, do you mind if I go out and warm up out in the bullpen? This is ridiculous out here." He says, "Go ahead." So I went out and warmed up for that game in the bullpen, and that caused kind of a revolution. Then everybody started going out there, and to this day, everybody warms up in the bullpen instead of in front of the dugout.
Right. So you instigated that.
I did.
That
I
whole
did,
thing.
yeah.
And then you go out on the mound, the real mound, and that must have been quite an honor to throw the first pitch.
It really was.
Well, take us through that memory.
Well, the biggest thing I can remember is before the game even started, and we were taking batting practice and everything. If you looked out over the right field wall, the train, all the trains came up and subways from town. And the hordes of people that were coming across there, you could just see them coming. It was like never ending. It was a big, big crowd. I don't know what the attendance was. I'm sure it was filled that day. But and of course there's another game, the so-called famous home runs. I think Stargell hit a home run off of me, like in the second or third inning, something like that, and that was his the first home run in Shea Stadium.
Wow.
And
So you got first pitch and first home run.
well, not on the same pitch, but
Right, yeah.
But they never talk about. What I like to think about is I also had the first strikeout in there. It was a fellow by the name of Roberto Clemente, and he was the first guy to strike out at Shea Stadium. But nobody talks about that, It's the home run.
Yeah.
And but I didn't get the loss in the game, but we had he hit another home run off of me, I think in the 7th or 8th inning, and I swear it was a good pitch. I mean, I had the good curveball going, and had he not hit that pitch, it would have hit home plate. I mean, that's how low it was. Ooh. And he just went down and golfed it, and actually, I think that tied the game up in the like 7th or 8th inning, and then I got taken out for a pinch hitter, and we ended up losing the game later on. So all the three famous home runs, no wins.
No wins, but lots of memories.
Oh God, yes.
That's for sure. So let me ask you one other thing. You got out of the game in 1967. Was your last year? Is that right?
No, 69 was
69. 69. So you were with the Mets through
67.
Through 67.
68, I was traded to the White Sox, and 69, I went to Cincinnati.
Okay, and that's when the Mets got good. I mean, they beat the Orioles in the World Series.
Absolutely.
So a nice career that you had all those years, major league pitching. Any batter that you had that you feared the most?
Oh, without a doubt, it was Stargell. I mean, it seemed like every time I cocked my arm, he hit it over a building somewhere. Going back and looking through the records, Hank Aaron hit more home runs off of me than Stargell did. But somehow I don't remember the Aarons nearly as closely as I remember Stargell's, because his was at critical times in the game. Aaron, we may have been up a few runs or down a few runs, so the home run really didn't mean a heck of a lot. A lot of times when I'm way ahead in the game or something like that, I would just go ahead and challenge the hitter. If they hit it out, hey, I've got a 3-run or 4-run lead, I'm not going to walk you. You're going to have to hit your way on.
Right.
And I gave up some home runs that way. And I think that's primarily how, Aaron got his home runs off of him. He was just going out there challenging.
Right. A little bit of jump, trying to get through. Yeah, I understand that. Well, I think that we've covered our moments, and you've taken us back on a tour of the early Orioles and the Kitty Corps and the Baby Birds and all that, which is so important to the history of that franchise for certain. And we want to thank you for allowing us to come into your home, lovely home, up here in Pennsylvania. And we'll be coming right back at you with a live Q&A with Jack and another special guest coming on. So, Jack, thank you again for your time and your hospitality. It's been a pleasure.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thanks to Jack Fisher and to the Aliceanna Collective for producing tonight's show and all of our BASH programming.
And now we'd like to share a special behind-the-scenes peek at our new exhibit, The Making of a Legend. The centerpiece of this exhibit will be Babe Ruth's 1914 rookie card, the first baseball card that features the famed slugger and one of 10 in existence.
In American culture, we have a phenomenon called the collecting of baseball cards. So what is it about a baseball card that makes it so collectible? Recently, the Babe Ruth Museum entered the national spotlight with the announcement that one of the most valuable baseball cards ever, a Babe Ruth rookie card, is going to be put on display. So, what does it take to build an exhibit to house one of the most valuable baseball cards ever, the Babe Ruth rookie card? Let's pull back the curtain and take a look.
When I first heard that the rookie card was coming back here to stay, I was really excited. I knew that we would build a beautiful exhibit to house the rookie card itself, but even more important to me was kind of the story of the whole exhibit and the story of Babe's career.
A first step for the museum was to find an exhibit designer, and for me this was not an issue because I've had a relationship with a fellow who works for Cambridge 7 up in Boston, and his name is Peter Sologub.
We knew that Peter was perfect to work on this exhibit. He's done a lot of projects with us in the past. We have a really great history together.
He also has done jobs of national acclaim, like the aquarium here in Baltimore, San Francisco 49ers Museum, and the Little League Museum up in Williamsport.
You're dealing with a card that's essentially 5 inches by 3 or 4 inches. So how do you do that? So what we decided to do together with the museum was to develop a special case and center the card in it. And the challenge is to do that from an air and light and temperature point of view. It was preserved. We had to make sure it was secure. Not only the case had to be secure as itself, but it had to be secure in the museum.
So this exhibit is really about more than just the Babe Ruth rookie card. The show is called The Making of a Legend, and it features a lot of components of Babe Ruth's life and legend, and that requires more artifacts, but also graphics.
So our graphics firm, First Floor Graphics, is run by a woman named Carol Green. They do all of our printing of captions and layouts, pretty much anything that you see in the background of an exhibit and some of our big images that we have. We reached out to them and they were ready to get to work.
Originally, the museum came to me and said, we have this opportunity to create a new exhibit. So we had on-site meetings. We put together some renderings, some concepts, some colors, and went back and forth with the staff.
Now, a final component for building this show is the casework, and we had to find someone who had built cases for priceless artifacts before. And we found the company by the name of Mystic Scenic, also out of Massachusetts, to do the job.
So Mystic Scenic was selected by Cambridge 7 to work with us. It was our first time working with them. They're super detailed. They wanted to know exactly what the cards were going to be set in so they could get the measurements on that case exactly right, get the angles on that case right, and make it fit into our existing display downstairs.
You know, I've worked here for a long time, and my persistent goal is to make people happy with the stories that we tell. And I think in this case, we have a tremendous opportunity with one of the most valuable artifacts that we've ever displayed.
So working on exhibits is one of my favorite parts of my job. It can be really stressful, but when it finally opens, seeing the reaction on everyone's faces when they come to look at something as special as the rookie card is really what it's all about.
I'm Sean Hearn, Executive Director of the Babe Ruth Birthplace Foundation. The Birthday Bash is one of our most important annual fundraisers, and we sincerely thank you for tuning in. Your support allows us to preserve our local sports heritage, create quality programming, and bring you new exhibits like The Making of a Legend. Thank you for watching.
We can't wait for everyone to see The Making of a Legend, which we expect to open in conjunction with the Orioles home opener this year. We'll be coming back with our final live Q&A with Jack Fisher and Jim Henneman from Pressbox at 7:30. If you'd like to purchase a ticket to join the Q&A, click on the link below.
In the meantime, don't forget to visit our silent auction. All proceeds benefit the museum.